Hey guys, what's up? This is Casey. This is Coach Tom. This is Shot Science Overtime number 88.
Ooh.
Today, what we do every day that we have a live show, every Sunday, we have a topic that we talk about for the first 15 or so minutes. Then we jump into questions that you guys have. So if you have questions, what you want to do is make sure you tweet them to us. We are at Shot Science. You can also send them to us on Facebook, Google+, in the chat of this video on YouTube, or anywhere else you can get a hold of us. Just try and send those over to us right now, and we will get to as many as we can before we wrap up the show today. But usually the early people get their questions answered. If you wait, you might not get them in there. So send them to us now. And if you can, please go out and tell your friends and family to check out our live shows, because that helps us get more cool guests on here. And we need your help to spread the word. So if you can go out there and do that, we would really appreciate it. Okay, so today's topic, what we're going to talk about today, is how to be a valuable player on any team. So, I mean, it's a little vague, but I think that there's some major things that you can do to make yourself a player that a coach wants to have, no matter, what your skill is necessarily, but, the things that you do. Like, so what are some things that you think make you valuable?
Some things that make you valuable as a player, of course, are the skills that you possess, that you bring to the team. And not usually is every player very skilled in a whole bunch of categories. Usually you have something that you bring to the game that's kind of unique to you, whether it be your size, your jumping ability, your shooting ability, the fact that you defend really well. Those are all things that are kind of individualistic. But one of the things that you can do to be a valuable player to your team is learn how to bring something extra. And one of the things extra that I think is just so important is effort in how you play. A lot of times you have a team that it's really difficult to kind of get them play at a very high intensity level. That's just not ingrained in their game. They just kind of are a little bit passive, and as a result, it's going to have a negative effect on the outcome of the games. And so, how to make yourself a more valuable player is learn how to. One way is to learn how to play really hard.
So and
hustle, diving on the floor,
doing the small things like diving on the floor, taking charges, going after rebounds.
Yeah, all of that is
blocking guys out. All the stuff that, if you're a lazy guy, you're not going to do.
Yeah, truly. But, some guys maybe can't take and be super effective in some areas, but some they can bring some real help to the team. One of them certainly is rebounding. And I think that defense is usually something that you can bring as a player to the team that will help your team be more successful. And so I think those are some key things that kind of start out with the fact that if you can develop more than one or two things into your game, then you're going to become a more valuable player. And therefore, you probably get a chance to play more basketball, too.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the huge mistakes that people make is they try to be one-dimensional, or they say, I'm either going to be a shooter, I'm going to be a slasher, I'm going to be a point guard, I'm going to be a two guard, I'm going to be a post player, or whatever. And then that's all that you kind of strive for. And you're on these rails where, okay, you can only play in the post. What happens if you are forced to step outside, or a defender, it takes away everything in the post? What do you do then? Are you able to step out there? Or what if your team has an issue with fouls and your three guards foul out or something like that? And, there's an overabundance of post guys. If you could step out and play that position, you get more playing time and you're more valuable that way. So one of the things that we always teach our players is that you should never pigeonhole yourself as a specific position. Positions really are designated just by the coaches that you play for. So if a coach thinks, oh, well, Casey, he looks like he could probably be a point guard, let's put him there. And then they try it out. If it doesn't work, then, oh, well, maybe we'll try him at a two guard. Or, hey, there's Tom, he's a really good post player, let's throw him in there in the post, and looks like he works well in there. Oh, he can also play the three, so maybe we can do some different looks, and he can get more playing time doing that. So if you pigeonhole yourself and you're not able to be versatile, then you're going to find yourself not playing very much, if at all. And, coaches, sometimes it comes down to one guy or the other guy. And if you're the guy that can only play in the post, then the other guy, he's maybe not as good as you in the post, but he can also play on the perimeter. You might find yourself not making the team because that guy can do more things. Yeah, so one of the worst things that you can do is say, I'm just a point guard, or I'm just a five, or whatever it is, I'm just a center, because that pigeonholes you. And I don't think that makes you very valuable.
Well, a key point here that Casey made that I think is one's really important, and that is that if you're playing on an organized team, you're going to have a coach who is going to determine where you're going to play. No matter how you feel about where you ought to play, they're going to make that decision. And they're going to make the decision based upon a couple of important criteria. Number one, are you going to bring something special to the team by playing at the post or playing at the wing? Are you going to be able to really bring it when we need a shooter from the perimeter? Those things are the kind of what they're looking at.
Or does this fit this formula that we're trying to go for?
Exactly. And most coaches will take, and you'll see their teams kind of shape themselves from year to year. And sometimes they will look quite different from the ones that have played before. And usually that is a result of a coach who comes in and said, well, we're not going to be able to run this year quite as effectively because we're really big. So we're going to slow the pace of the game down a little bit. And so their game kind of changes. But then you get that group of guys who are really quick and they're all over the floor and they can shoot it. And you can press. And so now they make that change to go in that direction. So you want to take and make sure that you're molding yourself, first of all, into a basketball player, not a position player, because oftentimes you get kind of shut down, as Kate mentioned, because that's all you can do. And maybe they already get somebody there who can do it better than you can do it. So you want to take and work on your skills so that you can really become effective. A thought that just kind of comes into my mind is I remember a player from a few years ago that was a local guy who was about 6'4", who could really shoot it. And one of the things that you always hated is for him to get open shot because he was really effective. And so we kind of figured out what we needed to do and found out he couldn't really dribble the ball with his left hand. And so we forced him to play with his left hand. And he had a real hard time with it because he wasn't a complete player. And he couldn't put the ball on the floor with his strong hand very well either. And so by taking away his shot and forcing him to play a part of the game that wasn't comfortable for him, we were able to kind of control him. And I don't recall what the outcome of the game is. It doesn't really make any difference, but we were able to control that particular player and to our benefit.
Yeah, I mean, think about a player like Shaquille O'Neal, how valuable he is at the center position, and the fact that he was athletic enough to keep up with most of those guys in terms of kind of the more athletic perimeter players and stuff like that too. But the one area where he struggled and probably never would have reached his true value is on the free throw shooting. And so what that does is that takes away from his effectiveness in the post, because guys don't even have to play him straight up. They can just foul him and send him to the line, and they know that it's going to be probably 2 misses and they're going to get the ball back. So the value of Shaquille O'Neal could have greatly been increased if he was able to hit free throws. He would have been unstoppable because he would have either made the free throws if he got fouled, or they would have had to respect him in the post and not foul him. And that's really tough. So, you have to think of yourself like that. If you want to be a great basketball player on the perimeter, you have to be able to shoot, and you also need to be able to attack and finish at the rim. Because if you can only attack and finish at the rim, then they're going to take that away from you. They'll just play off of you, and they'll give you the shot, and they won't give you the ability to take them to the basket. If you're a great shooter and you can't take it to the hole, then they're just going to take that away from you. They'll play up on you, and they'll get right in your face, and you won't be able to get the ball off.
Yeah,
so your value there is greatly diminished. So even if you're a great shooter, they can take that away from you. And so you need to make sure that you're a complete player and you're able to do all the things. And imagine if you can shoot from the perimeter, you can shoot the free throw, you can attack the basket, you can step into the post, you can bring up the ball,
and you can defend,
defend, you can distribute the ball, and you're a leader, and all these things. I mean, how could a coach pass that up? I mean, they simply won't do that. So you have to be working on all of those things. And one of the things I hate hearing the most, and we hear it all the time here, is I'm this position, how do I blah, 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 or I'm this height, what position should I play, or I'm this body type, whatever. I mean, that's the worst thing you can do. Think about if somebody like Charles Barkley had just gone off by what his height was in terms of developing how he played. He's 6'5" on a good day, even though they list him as a little bit taller than that, but he's about 6'5", and he's one of the greatest rebounders of all time and one of the most powerful players of all time. And he would go in there and he'd bang against guys that were 7'2" or whatever, like Shaq. And he didn't have any regard for what his height was at all. So I mean, that's the way you should really approach it too. Is that if you go in there, okay, I'm 5'9", that means I'm a point guard. That doesn't mean you're a point guard. You could play pretty much anywhere. You need to figure out how to be a great player, and then your coach will fit you into the place where he best thinks that your play works into the formula of the team. So don't pigeonhole yourself. I think that's the worst thing you can do.
Yeah, that's really true.
And one of the coolest things to see is a point guard-ish player that can step into the post and post up on guys, because most of the guys that guard them are not prepared for that kind of stuff. And on the same coin, the big guys that are able to step out to the perimeter and pull those big defenders out away from the basket and, effectively pull them out, because if there's no reason for them to come out on you, then they're not going to do that. But if they know that you're going to be a scoring option there, then they have to step out on you. And if you do that, then you open up the middle for everybody else. And so you can get some more kind of options going for your teammates and stuff too. So, I mean, all those things add value to your game.
Yeah. Here's one that I hear quite regularly too. Coach, I'm 5'3". How long do you think it'll be before I can dunk? Well, if you're 5'3", you shouldn't be thinking about dunking the basketball. If you're 5'10", I don't think I'd be worrying about dunking the basketball. What you want to do is work on those skills that are going to give you the best chance to succeed. Dunking is something that is probably over amped way more than it needs to be. And it's kind of the area of those guys who are big and who are athletic and get to the basket and throw it down. And most people that play this game, they're not really big enough to do that, unless you get into the pros, and then you find most all of them can do that, except those that are a little shorter. But the thing that I think is more important to make yourself more valuable as a player is, what skills are you going to bring? Can you handle the ball? Can you shoot the ball? Can you defend? Those are valuable tools that every coach would love to have, Well,
when it comes to things like dunking, I think that you have to remember that even the really great players, they're not dunking every single time down the floor either. No, and the fact of the matter is, you have to consider the body types of some of these guys too. Most of them are, 6'6" plus in the NBA. And if you take somebody that, like me, I'm 6'2", I have a pretty high reach. I can reach up just over about 8 feet in the air if I reach one hand up. If you take somebody like Kevin Durant or some other guy that's like 6'10", 6'11", they're reaching up over 9 feet in the air.
Yeah.
And so they have to jump, less, they have less than a foot to reach up and get over the rim. So you have to consider the fact that these guys are giant people, and being able to dunk, I mean, that's something that if you're able to do it at some point in your life, you'll probably be able to do it. Or if you get close, you can work on developing that. Shouldn't worry about that very much. No. Worry about the things that are going to keep you on the team. And what keeps you on the team is the ability to get buckets.
Yeah. And defend. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like Bill Russell in that Uncle Drew commercial. You have to be able to get buckets. And if you can't do that, I mean, who cares if you can dunk? I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, there's plenty of great dunkers on the internet and blah 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 that are not great players. I mean, they just know how to dunk, and that's great that they can do that, but that doesn't necessarily translate into a spot on a basketball team.
No, and the reality of it is, over many years of coaching, probably I would say, I think I mentioned this a while back, is that I can probably think of maybe in one season, maybe seeing a half a dozen to 10 dunks total for the whole year. And so that's not very many when you're looking at 30 games and you're looking at all the teams that you play against. I mean, that's lots and lots of players. It just doesn't happen as much on the high school level as you think it might. Now, there's some areas where you go where you're probably playing some players who are playing on a much higher level, and maybe it happens a lot more there. But most of us are not in those places as players.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on kind of the like you said, the level of play.
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of times like certain teams will aggregate players of certain maturity and athleticism, and then you'll see a lot of dunks. But in general, when you go around to different high schools and stuff, most people are not giants, they're not super athletes, and so things are typically played below the rim, which even in a game full of dunking people is mostly played below the rim. Anyways, the whole reason we brought that stuff up about the dunking and all that is that you need to not be one-dimensional. You need to work on every aspect of your game, be able to step into the post, step on the perimeter, be able to defend in both areas as well, have a knowledge of the game, be able to put everything out on the floor, be a hustler, be a person that does all those small things like diving for the ball, taking the charge, getting rebounds, and be a leader. All of those things add up to your value as a player. If you are wanting to get playing time, want to make the team, want to whatever, endear yourself to the coach, that is what you do, is you up your value and you kind of embrace all of those aspects like that. Right? Absolutely. All right. So hopefully we will get no more questions about I'm a point guard, I should do what? I'm 5'8", I should do what? I mean, you really just be a great basketball player and things will come to you. You won't have to have some secret dispelled to you. It will happen. Okay, so let's jump into taking questions now. Hopefully that topic helps you guys. And if you want more information on that stuff, I mean, you can always hit us up with another question and we'll try to follow up. Best way to send us your questions is on Twitter. We are at Shot Science. So if you tweet at us, we will get to those first. Then we will also jump into some here in the chat down here on YouTube on this video. And you can also hit us up on Facebook and Google+. So start sending those questions. And if you can, go out and tell your friends and family to check out the show because it helps us get cool guests on and also gives us a bigger team Shot Science. That helps a lot. Okay, so first questions. Let's see. This one is from Big Shactus in the comments. He says, would you rather have a player that can get you 30 points every game or a player that can consistently get double-doubles from game to game?
I want them both.
Well, you don't get that option.
Actually, I think that probably I would take the double-double guy. Nobody's going to get 30 points every time they go out and play. You might get, a run of points maybe in 2 or 3 games, whatnot. But 30 points is
even in the NBA. There's like 2 guys that do that.
Yeah, and if you've got somebody who consistently gets, and I think this is really possible, double, then you're gonna first of all, on one of those doubles, you're going to get somebody who's going to be able to score in double figures. And the other double, I'm suspecting that probably that is regarding to rebounds. And those are ball possessions, which are going to maybe get you something more. So I think that I would probably go with the double guy as opposed to the 30-point guy.
Yeah, my question would be, and this needs to be clarified if you're going to ask a question like this, if the guy that's scoring 30 points, is he also getting 9 rebounds and 8 assists? Or is he getting 30 points and 1 rebound and 2 assists?
Yeah.
Because that's a big difference. The guy that's scoring the double and he's getting, double figure points and obviously double figure rebounds or assists. Those are possessions and scoring opportunities that translate into points. So I think you need to have a little bit more information. Obviously, if you're trying to get at, would we like guys that are doing more than one thing? The answer to that is yes. If you're asking it using this question, that's a little bit dubious. You need to give us a little more information. Yeah. Because 39 and 8, that's pretty crazy. Okay, so here's some stuff from Twitter. This one is from Nathan Thompson, who is at NateT_AF, who's here all the time. He says, how do I improve my defense and stop falling for hesitations and fake crossovers without pushing or fouling? Well, I think one thing is to focus on their midsection. Don't really try to follow the ball so much. You want to have like a softer focus on that stuff. If you are following the ball or his head or even the feet sometimes, that's really easy to misdirect where they're going or to pull it back. Yeah. And what you need to do is really kind of just stay in front of them. When we teach defense, we essentially say straddle where the ball is with your legs. So if the ball is over on this side, you're straddling that side of their body. If it's over here, you're straddling that side of their body. And what happens if you follow their eyes or you follow the ball is that it's easy to just get somebody to even step off and change your balance just by doing that or by looking. So you have to be able to not fall for that stuff by kind of keeping a soft focus on their body and focusing more on their midsection, because you can't go anywhere without taking that with you. You have to take the midsection with you. In terms of fake crossovers without pushing or fouling, number one, I would say don't reach in. It sounds like you're probably reaching in too much, and you want to make sure that you're beating them to the spot, but you're not hanging on to them, because that's how you get fouls, is when you're reaching and hanging on. Stay in front, beat them to the spot.
Really like the idea defensively too of trying to keep that person pretty much between your legs when they're going someplace with the basketball. And like Casey's point there of trying to get that ball in, actually on the center of your body, I mean, that's really key too, because you can kind of direct where the ball's going to go. And the rip and tip hands, I think, are really important too. For those of you who don't know what that is, take a look at our video so that you have a chance to see what the rip and tip is all about.
Defense 101, yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is that you can create some problems for those crossover dribbles by not reaching in, but having your hand in the dribble lane, so that it makes it difficult for they to get across your body. So
yeah, and here's one other thing too, is that most times when you get a steal, it is not from picking it from a guy while he has the ball in his hands or is doing some dribbling exhibition in front of you.
Right.
Typically, when you steal the ball, it is going to be off a pass, and you're going to anticipate it and pop it out of the air. People that try to get too many steals from the defender that they're guarding, that's when they get a lot of fouls and also get beat because they're reaching.
Yeah, the reaching part of it probably is the biggest negative side of basketball, defensive basketball, because your hands get you in trouble when you are reaching in. You use those to create some distractions. Maybe we get the hand up in the tip hand situation, or we got it down in the rip situation. Those are important things to use. But as soon as we start reaching, we're usually going to get ourselves in trouble. And like you said, Casey said, and I think this is an important point to make again, is that most of our steals are going to come by stepping into a pass that somebody is throwing a pass, and you step in and tip it away and go get it, as opposed to knocking it out of their hand. Officials are not very kind when it comes to you reaching in. One thing that I do always teach our guys, though, is that when we're reaching in, we're going to come up from the bottom side. We're not going to reach in and come down where we might hit them on the hand. And usually officials don't really call contact that is created by the hand kind of coming upward.
Yeah, and usually that's because, like, if you have the ball and you're coming up and somebody comes over the top, it's really obvious when you hit them. But if you pop from underneath, it's not so obvious.
Right.
The other thing I would say too is that a lot of people put such an emphasis on stealing the ball as being great defense.
Yeah.
That is so not what defense is. Defense is stopping them from their scoring attempts and keeping them in front of you and just shutting down their attack. If you're able to keep your guy from attacking the basket or delivering the ball to another guy, then you have essentially done your job. And if your guy has not caught the ball, if you can deny him the ball and make sure that he never gets it, then you are playing great defense. Steals are a infrequent benefit to playing great defense, and you will probably pick them up mostly off, like we said, catching them by anticipating passes and stuff. But stopping your guy and playing good, stand-up defense, that's really the best way to approach that stuff.
One of the things when we play defense, oftentimes players play soft on defense, particularly when they're out on the perimeter. I'm not a real proponent of that. One of the things I think is really important is that if you're the guy with the basketball, we want to be up and on you and exhibiting some pressure. Now, does that
There's
mean,
another way to be a valuable player.
Yeah, and we don't necessarily want to be up chest to chest with them, because we kind of have a formula for that as well. They crowd, I go. But if we get in and create some pressure and make it difficult for them to execute passes to other players, or limit where they can go with passes, I mean, that's really important. And oftentimes I see situations where they're playing a point guard and the defensive guard is playing them off at 6 feet. Well, you've got time out there to check it out, look it over, throw a good pass. Whereas if you've got pressure on that person, and this is the key for me on defense, is ball pressure. Anytime a player has the basketball, we're applying ball pressure. That means we're getting up and into them, not crowding them so much, but we're getting up to them so they can smell our breath.
Yeah, and here's another thing too about being a valuable player is that if you want to be a valuable player or an effective player, there should never be a moment while you're on the basketball court where you feel like you can relax or chill out. If you're playing defense, you should always be ready. You should be challenging your man if he has the ball. If he doesn't have the ball, you should be denying him. You should be in the passing lane. If you're off ball side and the ball is on the other side of the court, you should have your defender or your offensive player and the ball in your peripheral vision. You should be seeing where other people are cutting and seeing if there's any back cuts coming. If you're playing on offense, even if you're 20 feet away from the ball on the other side of the court, you should be looking to have movement without the ball, create some space, look for an opportunity, set somebody up for an opportunity, whatever. There should never be a moment where you're just like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'll just chill out over here. And if it comes back this way, then I'll get ready to go. That is the worst thing you can do, number one. And number two, the players that are always ready and always prepared are the ones that are going to be the most valuable.
Yeah, there's another element of defense that I think oftentimes is not enough attention paid to it, and that is help side defense, or doesn't even have to be help side. It can actually be ball side, but it is allowing ball penetration through a seam. A seam is that area between two offensive or two defensive players where the ball can actually penetrate through that and get to the basket. And too often we see players who use what we call Olay defense. It's like the bullfighter. They're out there just kind of waving them on through. And what we like is actually step over into that lane that they're trying to drive with our body squared up to them to force them to stop and pick up the basketball, and then we're going to recover to our man. Now, there are some things that you can get into that create some problems there, but allowing somebody to drive all the way unchecked to the basket like that is a formula for defeat. There's no question about that. And so if you can just stop them and make them play at the perimeter more than in the middle of that defense, there's a better chance you're going to come out on top.
Yeah, and here's another thing too. You should never be flat-footed when you're playing basketball. That's the worst thing you can do.
Or straight-legged.
Flat-footed, straight-legged. I mean, that shows that you're not prepared or ready to go. A lot of big guys fall into the flat-footed thing, and that's why a lot of their defense is not super great. But if you're able to play down and ready to go, athletic stance, all that stuff, then you should be well on your way on that stuff. Okay, here's one from Philip Esayama, who is at official_Phil15 on Twitter. He says, how can I turn into a complete athlete from a skinny 5'10" player?
Well, it kind of, what kind of an athlete are you talking about? If you're talking about a basketball player, you spend time trying to develop, number one, all the important skills for you to be successful as a basketball player, whether it be passing, whether it be shooting, defending, running the floor. There's a whole bunch of things that are really important. And it doesn't make any difference how big you are either. I mean, whether you're 5'10" or 6'10", doesn't make any difference. Just working to develop yourself into a complete player.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people, again, this is like focusing on being on the shorter side or something like that. I'm too skinny, I'm too whatever.
Yeah.
You need to not focus on that so much as work on developing all your skills that are essential to the game. So you're shooting, dribbling, passing, all that stuff, defense. And then while you're working on that stuff, maybe slip in some conditioning things in there in between. So, things that are functional for basketball, like sprints or interval training or push-ups, pull-ups, lateral changes in directions, plant and push, ladder drills for footwork. All of that stuff really will help you more than you think. A lot of guys think that they need to go, or girls, I guess, need to go and get in the weight room and put on 30 pounds of muscle. Number one, that's going to be real hard for you to ever do that.
Yeah.
And number two, it's going to take you a lot of time, and that's a lot of time that will be taken away from developing your game, developing your conditioning, school, personal life, whatever. And it will not be as big of a payoff as you think it will be. Yeah. There's definitely guys I've seen that have taken a summer or whatever, and they've gotten real jacked. and they've come back and they're the same guy that they were before because they can't shoot, they can't dribble, they can't pass. And,
they're just bigger.
Yeah. So, and you can see this all the time with guys that are super skinny. You got Anthony Davis or Kevin Durant or whoever. These guys are not bench pressing 300 pounds. They are, very skinny guys. They are thin, but they are also super athletic, and they're stronger than you think. If you want to be a great player, don't worry about being some bulky, LeBron James looking guy. You don't need to do that. You need to be you, work on developing your game, and throw in your conditioning and footwork and all that stuff in there, and you'll be good to go. Okay, this one is from Willie Will, who's at King Will 14 on Twitter. He says, for an assistant coach going into his second season and not knowing what he's looking for, who/what should I look at during tryouts?
Well, probably just kind of a listing, and these are not necessarily in any particular order. First thing you want to look for is who are the players. And after you've watched them for a few minutes, you'll be able to pick out the obvious ones who have some ball skills or have some shooting skills. And then after you have kind of sized up those people, then you want to make sure that you're looking at others who may escape you, but really bring an important part of the game to a team. For example, just how hard they play. We talk about all the time just how much effort plays in this role. And so that would be one of the things we'll be looking at. Who really plays hard? Who defends really hard? Who is after every loose basketball? And now one of the things that you're going to find is that sometimes as you're looking at players, you're going to find some guys who don't score very well at all. They just don't have those skills, but they just play so hard, and they're maybe great on defense. So I would be looking at those elements as well. And then finally, as you kind of get down toward the bottom of the list, if there's a couple of players there who are just really, really good guys who don't quite measure up now, but maybe they will in the future, I would maybe consider them too. I would let them know when the team is selected, if they're on there, that, you're probably not going to play as much as maybe some of the other guys because you need some time to develop, and you kind of let them know that that's the way it's going to be. And I think those are important considerations. And then sometimes you just find guys who are just really, really good guys to have on a basketball team. Other players really like them. You like them, and you just like them being around. And those kind of guys oftentimes will do so much for your team just because of their great attitudes. They may not be the greatest players, but they might be very good players. But those are some of the things that I think that I would be looking at. I don't necessarily look at guys who can, shoot the ball from, 30 feet, or who have, when they show you a little move, they've got 6 dribbles before they leave the spot where they're working. I'm looking for guys who can really break people down and get to the basket. Yep.
I think you need to look at like the grand overall scheme and see how the pieces kind of fit together.
Exactly.
These group of guys going to work? Can we fill out the roster in terms of position? Is this going to fit into the philosophy of play that we have? All of that stuff. And then, obviously the things that you were saying about, the different types of players that you want to have on your team. You want to have like the real player guys. You want to have the guys that are kind of the role player guys, and the guys that are the morale/leadership guys. And maybe those guys all are, they float between the different kind of categories there, but you definitely want to have kind of a good mix. And I think you do. You have to look at it with a big overview. You can't just pick each guy just because. You need to have kind of a grand scheme.
Well, the other thing that you want to do, I think, when selecting a basketball team is avoid those players who can become cancers for your team. And they usually don't jump out at you right away. And so you might have to watch them play a couple of times or try out a couple of times before you can assess who is this guy. And, it's very often guys are taken on the team. They show you a really, really good face, they're friendly and all that. And then once they get in, they start carping at the other guys who are on the team, well, that guy's not as good as I am. How come he's playing more than me? And so you want to identify those guys early on. I know a coach who has had this one guy who has tried out for a basketball team for about 4 years in a row, and the coach kind of knew who he was, and that fact that he was essentially a real turkey, somebody to really disrupt your team and would take off and not say anything about it. And so he just does not select him. Maybe he could play, but he doesn't select him, because you don't want those kinds of guys on your team who are going to create problems.
Yeah, I mean, it's always the guys that kind of come in and they're entitled or have some kind of attitude issue.
Yep.
I know that when I played in high school, there was a guy that he probably would have been a really great player, maybe even a starter at some point, but he was just the biggest idiot, and he was such a jerk about everything that the coach didn't even choose him for the team. We had a full roster of guys and everything too, and so that guy transferred. He played on another team in the area, and they did not do very well, and he struggled, and that's just because of his attitude and who he was, and it was a bullet dodged by our team by not taking him on the team. So yeah, that's tough for a coach. Okay, let's move on. But let us know if you have more questions on that. Let's go to the chat here again. This one is from Ryoto Akashi, who says, how can I improve my pull-up jumper? Well, there's this thing called practice.
Yeah. Well, that's really true. But one of the things that's really important is what to practice.
Diligent practice and specific mechanics and stuff like that.
The specific mechanics of it are some of the things that are really important. One of the things that we really think is important when you're getting into any kind of a jump shot where you're coming off a dribble is that you need to have really pretty good footwork. And we really prefer the 1-2 lead trail, and we happen to call that footwork stop and gather. We want to stop our momentum, and the other foot is going to gather so that we're very stable when we go up to shoot. So the stability is an important part of it. We're not big on hopping into shots because we think that when we hop into shot, it actually takes a little bit longer. I know the people who are on the hop into shot kind of thing say just the opposite, but
it does, because you have to go from high to low to high to be able to pull it off. 1-2 is from low to high.
Yeah. But the thing is too, I don't think that your balance is very good when you hop into something because you can't control it all that well.
It's 2 points of contact simultaneously instead of one coming into another one at a different time. So I mean, that's going to be more stable just because you're able to control it.
And so I think the footwork on a jump shot is really important. The other thing, the next thing that I would tell you is that when you put the ball on the floor for that last dribble, which we call the pickup dribble, the ball should be an absolute laser shot. You want that ball to go to the floor really hard. And when it comes back up, it tends to stick in your hand a little bit better than if you're putting down one that's really soft. The other thing is it makes it a little more difficult for the defense to get their hands on that ball as well. So we think you should really crush the last dribble or the pickup dribble. The other thing that really comes out of that too is it allows you to get right up into your shot and get into a rhythm without having to wait for the basketball.
And here's the thing too, you have to have the 3 pillars of practice. We talk about it almost every time.
Yeah.
And that is to have the diligent kind of meticulous attention to form type of practice where you're slowing everything down, you're making sure you're getting every element in place, and you're working on getting the repetitions and polish and that's where we usually do like the form shooting drill and just kind of get all the mechanics dialed in. Then what you want to do is you want to step that up to game speed, game intensity workouts where you're getting the ball off the pass, or you're getting it off the dribble, you're coming off a cut. You're doing game speed stuff. So like you might have a defender in there. You might pretend like you have a defender in there, but everything is at the speed and intensity of a game. And then taking that and moving it up to actual game experience where you're playing against actual players in a live setting and then working on it there and getting repetitions there. So that could be a pickup game, school game, whatever, playground, whatever it is. You have worked on all those aspects so that when you actually step on the floor, you've not just had the repetitions in the gym alone or whatever, but you've also gone up against other people and had the repetitions there. So you've actually been there before. So you want to work on all of those things at the same time. You want to have the diligent practice, the game speed, game intensity, and the game experience practice all going on at the same time. So that's really important. And that's true for any kind of shooting.
Yeah.
Okay, this one is from Conrad Lewis, who says, when trying out for a team, do coaches honestly look at the best players scoring-wise? That is one aspect.
Yeah, they look at their scoring and see how efficient they're going to be, whether they're going to be effective or not. But you can't pick a player on just the fact that he can shoot the basketball, because if he can't handle the basketball, he's going to be a real liability to the team. And so the other aspects really come into play there as much as the shooting does for this person and this team to be effective.
Right. Okay. So let's see. This one is from over here, Nathan Thompson at NateT_AF. He says, when playing a game, I'm not always used to looking for teammates right away. How do I get in the habit of looking for open guys when I catch?
You get your head up so you can see up the floor. And, that's probably the biggest problem that most young players deal with, is the fact that they don't have their heads up. Their eyes are pretty much focused on the dribble because they're afraid they're going to turn it over. Get your head up. One of the things that we do as a practice regimen is we go through particular drills, and then we also add in the no eyes. You can't have your eyes open. Your eyes are closed as you're moving down the court and executing these different dribble moves. What happens is that you actually are much better doing that than you think you would be, just because your hands know where the ball is going to be. So we can get our head up and we can focus on the whole spectrum of your field of vision, and probably make you a better player where you're not really focusing on the wrong things.
Yeah, and then get game experience doing all that stuff too.
Yeah.
I think that the thing that you need to realize is that your head should be up all the time, no matter what, and you have to be making these kind of millisecond adjustments to what is going to lead to the next scoring opportunity.
Right.
You should, if you have the ball, you should always be the first option. And if you have the shot, you should take it. If you have the attack, you should take it. If you see that somebody else has a better look or a better position on the floor, or maybe the coach doesn't want you to shoot that early shot or whatever it is, then you need to be able to assess that instantaneously and either hit them with the pass or set them up for another opportunity. I mean, you have to be making these things happen like on the millisecond level.
And that comes through just playing an awful lot. Develop your skills and then play. Because as you play, you see other players execute different things, and you kind of, oh, I can do that. And then you start to experiment a little bit as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, it just takes a lot of experience, and keep your head up. This one is from Yusef B, who is at ASAP_use on Twitter. He says, what's good, Shot Science? I had a question on how I could stop being nervous in a real game, and is AAU really worth it? Oh, he slipped 2 in on us. How to stop being nervous in a real game. Okay, we get this question all the time, and our best answer is that the way that you lose kind of that nervous feeling, or at least one that is debilitating, is to make sure that your skills are up to the level of the performance that you require.
Yeah.
So instead of if your skill level is there and you've developed that, and you step out on the floor, you should not be concerned about anything, because you will be able to play up to the ability of your skills. If your skills are not up to where they should be, then that's really reason to be nervous. So you really have to develop your skills is the thing, and get experience as well.
Well, one of the other things that happens is that most players are a little bit apprehensive when the game just begins, because they don't know how it's going to go. And so, but usually after the first couple of minutes, most of that feeling uneasy about the game usually will pass, because now you're focusing on the elements of the game and how you're going to play. So the only thing that we can say about being nervous is don't.
Yep.
Don't.
But work on your skills and your experience.
Right.
Okay, this one is from Mike Tech, who is at Mike Tech 64 on Twitter. He says, what do you do if you're playing post but you can't seal your man because he's standing sort of in the middle of the key?
Well, okay.
I say you get in front of him and wait out the count.
Is he talking about to catch the basketball or to move on the basketball, or what? Read that again, would you please?
What do you do if you're playing the post but you can't seal your man because he's standing sort of in the middle of the key? I don't know if he's playing defense or offense.
Well, I'm thinking that the guy probably is playing defense, and if you can't feel him, you can turn right to the basket and you should be able to score. We actually have that as a rule, is that if you can't feel them, you want to face up to the basket right away. And that the way we like to do that is we're going to take and reverse turn and face up to him and the basket, and we're going to look to shoot it.
Well, here's the thing too, is that if you go watch our video on sealing in the post, you should be able to look right at that guy, go up to him and cross step him and seal him, and then keep him behind you. Right. And then if he's playing in the middle of the key, he's in deep crap.
Well, yeah, if he's playing off you more than an arm's length, you can face him up and probably shoot without much difficulty. And if he starts to close that gap, let's say you face him up and the ball is up and he sees you're going to shoot it and he starts to close that space, put it on the floor quickly and go by him, because there's not going to be anything he can do about it.
Yeah, I mean, but if you seal him and he's already in the middle of the key, you know, he's in trouble, because all you have to do is drop step and put it right in the basket. And if he challenges it, that's probably going to be a major foul. And so, yeah.
You should hope for guys like that.
Check out our video on sealing in the post, and you might find out that that's kind of something to use.
Those are the guys you want to play against.
Or even flashing in the post. That might be a situation where he's in the middle of the key and they reverse the ball and he's just standing there in the middle of the key. You flash up to the elbow or something, and he's done.
Right.
Okay, this one is from Rebound King in the chat down here on YouTube. He says, "Hi, Coach. I've been doing the jump manual. It's a jump handbook to be more explosive, athletic, and get a higher vert. I'm halfway through the program. I've noticed that my speed and agility has skyrocketed since I started, and my vert has gone up too. I've been told that I jump completely wrong in regards to maximizing power. When I jump off 2 feet, it's like I use running plant like a volleyball player. Can you please explain how to jump properly to maximize power and how to do it off of 1 foot and 2 foot, please? Thanks." Well, that's something that we're going to have to get into an actual video, because that is super hard to do without explaining with demonstrations. But I will tell you that there's nothing wrong with jumping with a running plant like a volleyball player. I mean, that's totally fine. What you might find is that you have weaknesses in terms of maybe jumping off of 2 feet or jumping off of 1 foot, or 1 foot versus the other, or whatever. If that's the case, you need to isolate that leg or that aspect and work on it and get the repetitions in there and innervate your muscles so that you build up the muscle memory and you build up the strength and stability and all of those. If you're using our vertical jump program, you should kind of be working on that stuff all the time as you're going, because, you know, we built it in so that, you know, you're doing single leg pistol squats that are helping stabilize and build strength in each leg. You're also doing max jumps and depth jumps off of boxes. So you should be building up the stability and strength in both legs, doing that kind of stuff. So that should be something you're working on all the time. The key of all that stuff is really just making sure that you have the proper mechanics. And if you're doing those mechanics while you're doing these exercises that we have shown you, you should be in good shape. If you're doing the exercises that we show you and then changing the mechanics when you go to jump, that's probably not going to be a good translation of the stuff that you've been working on. So, you know, make sure that you're not letting your knees cave in as you jump, or getting any weird kind of stability issues when you're doing this stuff. Make sure you're jumping off of the balls of your feet. I mean, we have to go through and show you guys with video on this stuff, but I would say that if you're using the proper exercises, your mechanics should kind of be in line. If you're finding weaknesses there, then you need to isolate those weaknesses and develop them.
Well, a question that comes to my mind here too on this one is that you're saying here that I've been told that I jump completely wrong in regards to maximizing power. Who's telling you that? Is that somebody reputable? Is that somebody just telling you kind of what they think? More importantly, and here's the other thing, is if you would like for us to take a look at your jumping, make a little video of your jump, and we'll take a quick look at it. Just get it to us. We'll analyze it for you.
Yeah. Also stay tuned for videos on that. Okay. Yeah. This one is from Mike Tech again, who's clarifying. He says he didn't have enough characters on Twitter, but yes, he is on offense, and the defender or the guy in the middle of the key is on defense. So yeah, that stuff still holds up about what we
kind of thought that's what you're talking about.
Okay. So we've gotten to the lightning round portion of the show because we've just gone on and on and on. So let's make these real short. We're not going to give you guys the fullest answers. We're just going to try to get to as many people as we possibly can and do our best on that. Okay, this one is from Nathan Thompson again, who says, how do I push myself during workouts and make sure I challenge my game? Sometimes I feel like I just wasted 2 hours of working. That's up to you. That's your own mentality. if you feel like you've wasted it, then you've already figured out what the problem is. You need to push yourself.
Yeah.
Game
and
speed,
it's not
game
always
intensity.
easy to push yourself. Sometimes there are other things that are going on in your life that you kind of focus on. One of the things you have to do, I know, one of those things you have to do is just let go of some of that stuff and focus on what you're doing at that moment.
Okay, this one's from Willie Will, who is at King Will 14, and I think he was the coach from earlier. He says, for freshmen in high school, for a team undersized at center, what do I preach to be effective in games?
Preach meaning offense, defense. I mean, I'm not sure what he's getting at right there. What do you think?
I think just like an overall mentality or something like that. I mean, for me, if I was undersized, then I would just be playing run and gun the whole time.
Well, we get up and down, and we would probably press quite a bit as well to utilize our size and quickness against maybe bigger people. And I think that would be real effective. And I would not play zone against anybody in the half court. I would take and get into them and play them pressure defense, and front their post with one of your defensive players all the time. Never allow them to just take and throw the ball into the middle, and then they go ahead and shoot it.
Right. Okay.
A couple of thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, there's more to that, but hit us up during the week. This one's from Antonio Crisculo, who says, Coach, I play post, but I have the best handles and shot on the team. How can I make my coach move me to shooting guard? I always tell him that I can't play post. Any advice?
Your coach is not going to listen to anything that I say or you say or Casey says. He has in his mind where he wants you to play. And without sounding too harsh here, I would listen to what he's saying, because he could make a decision that, okay, you don't want to play the post, then we'll have you just sit down. He's going to make the decision on where everybody's going to play. And it doesn't make any difference if you're a great shot and great handles. You can execute that playing the 4 or the 5 when you do catch the basketball. So you're trying to force an issue because that's what you want. But remember that what you want is not the most important thing on the basketball team. There are probably 10 or 12 other guys and the coach, and they are all important in
lightning round
and what you're going to do. Okay.
And I would just add too that if you feel that way, go talk to the coach. Say, I understand you want me to play here. Is there any way that I could, maybe get a few looks at shooting guard or something like that? And don't act entitled, and you might get some good response out of that. Yeah. Okay, this one is from Stefan153. He says, how do I transition from playing at forward to playing at the guard position? Hey, like we said before, work on being a valuable player that can play all around anywhere. There's not that much difference from a guard to a forward. No. If you're able to play along the perimeter, you should be in good shape. And forget about positions. People are so stuck on that.
Yeah.
Be a great basketball player, and the coach will throw the label of what position you are on you.
Yeah.
Okay, this one is from Tomo. He says, hey, coach, I'm still developing my shot. I'm a young player, but I'm always changing my shooting form. I just can't make a decision. How can I fix it?
Make a decision.
Yep.
That's that easy.
And get a ton of repetitions and just work on it.
And just accept the fact that, okay, I'm not going to, I'm going to digress for a second here.
Hurry.
But, I often tell players, listen, if you're accepting what we're doing here today on these lessons, then I don't want you to listen to anybody else. And it's not because of my ego. What it is that pretty soon you're wondering, well, maybe I should be doing that, or maybe I should be doing this, and you get in a position where you're not sure, and so you can never really optimize. Find something you like, find a person you like as an instructor or coach, and go with it.
Yeah, and start with a good solid foundation, and then you can't really go wrong that way. Right. Okay, this one is from DWalker771, who says, any good static dribbling drills to improve handles for someone who's recovering from ACL surgery? Yes, go to our YouTube channel. We have a ton of drills that you can do that are static drills, and also some dynamic ones, but just check those out. Okay, this one is from Sean, and it's 2-ball drills too that are good. This one is from Sean Lewis, who says, do you have any tips to impress a coach off the court instead of on the court? Yes, be a good person, be a good leader.
Be friendly.
Go talk to them is really, go check out our video from last week where we talked about how to talk to coaches, and we have a whole thing on this.
That's really good comment, Dave.
But yeah, that's a good question. This one is from Ryoto Akashi, who says, how can I, we already did that one. Let's see. This one is from Mr. Pro Hop, who says, okay, over the years, it seems like nobody has grown, so tryouts are coming up this month, and the team is filled with mostly guards. Any tips to help me prevail? Play your game. Play with your skills. Don't play outside of your skill level.
Well, yeah, and if you're the coach of that team, you may have to adapt what you normally do to fit that particular group of guys, and that's what will be really important for your success.
Yeah, and if you're worried about getting lost in the shuffle of all those guard guys, do all those things that we were talking about earlier. Be a valuable player, have great leadership skills, do all the little things, hustle. I mean, check out our how to make the team video. That all those things will help you in getting on the team if those are kind of the things you're up against. Okay, this one is from Hardcore Comedy Gamer says, can you make another lesson about shooting and having confidence in my shot? Having confidence in your shot, just like being nervous, is a result of not having the skills developed to where they should be.
Yep.
So if you're not confident in your shot, obviously there's some issues with your skills there. So you have to work on streamlining everything, getting a ton of repetitions, and as soon as you start getting that flowing, you will not have to worry about your confidence in making the shot, because you'll have the results there and you'll be able to stand behind them. It's really that easy. There's no drill that will make you get that, except for the effort you put into it. Okay. Cisco Greenaway says, is it possible to be a great player under 5'8"? Yeah. Muggsy Bogues was 5'3". Spud Webb was 5'7". I mean, those are pro players that were under that height. Yeah. So you will be fine. Nate Robinson, those guys are all in that category. Okay. This one is from Steve Rogers, who says, I have asthma, so I can only go really hard for short spurts. Do you know any tips that can help me increase my endurance? We like interval training. So that's like quick changes between high intensity and low intensity. So like sprints and then walk back, stuff that kind of emulates what it's like to play basketball.
Right.
But also talk to your doctor if you have asthma. We don't want to be giving you bogus advice on that stuff. Drake Ovo says, is defense better than offense? No, they're both essential. I mean, offense wins the game because it's all about putting the ball in the bucket. Yeah. Defense will stop the other team from that happening.
Yeah, truly.
So they both go hand in hand. There's no one better than the other. This one is from Minata9, who says, every time I go for a two-handed dunk, my hands automatically latch on, causing me to hang on the rim without my control. Any way to stop this?
Just stop it.
Yeah, just stop.
Just stop.
You have control over your body.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's kind of a.
That's like when people say I shoot and I keep turning my hand this way or that way, and it's like
your hand that way.
Yeah, it's like, well, you just told us what the problem was. What do you want us to do? Come and hold it so that you don't do that? I mean, that's we can't do that. And there's no special pill that you can take. There's no magic drill you can do. You have to just make that mental switch in your mind.
Absolutely.
This one is from, let's see, For the Win, who's here. He says, I know you guys have been saying a lot about how we should play games as well as practice by ourselves to become better at basketball, but with tryouts coming in a few months, I haven't been able to go to the games because of family things and how busy we are. I'm able to get in 2 hours a day practicing, and I really want to play pickup games as well, but I'm unable to. Is there any way to simulate being in a game?
Simulate being in the game. Well, it's really kind of hard to do. What you might do is kind of round up some of your buddies and see if you can generate some small games that maybe they only go for 15, 20 minutes. You're working out 2 hours a day practicing. Maybe you go for an hour and 45 minutes practicing and see if you can pick up a game with some of your buddies for 15 minutes. All of that is good.
Yeah, I mean, the only way that you can simulate being in a game is game speed, game intensity, practice, but that also isn't playing a game.
Right.
So you need to get all of that in if you can.
Right. And
with anything in life, there's going to be sacrifices. Yeah. And if there's more important things going on, then you have to focus on those. And if basketball is something that's very important for you, then you might have to cut into some other things that are going on. But we have no perfect answer for you on that because we are not you.
Oh.
Okay, so we're going to do one more question here. This one is from Mike Tech, again, on Twitter. He says, I know this is kind of a broad question, but when I play, I feel like I don't know what I'm doing or to do next. I play center.
Well, that's a tough question, especially for a short answer. It would help to know if this was a team that was being coached by somebody or if it's just kind of a pickup game. That's a tough question. I wouldn't know exactly how to attack that.
I think that you know, what you need to do is get more experience. You need to get, it's 3 pillars of practice again. You need to get the diligent footwork and meticulous practice in by working on the skills, like getting the actual moves in. So like our post play moves that you can see on our channel.
Yeah.
Then add in the defender, do game speed, game intensity, and then go out and get the game experience. And, you know, a lot of times, you know, people work on these post skip moves or any kind of move really, and then they don't have them tested in games, and then they get out there and they don't know what to do, which to use or whatever. So you need to work on that in your practice and then step it up to the game so that when you actually get on the floor, you actually know what you're doing.
And don't be shut down because it doesn't work maybe the first time or two, because usually that's how it's going to be. You're going to learn it. Let's say you're working on a crossover or something, and you do that once. That didn't work. I'm bailing out of that. Well, you can really hurt yourself doing that, because if you stay with it, you may be able to develop that in a very short period of time where it becomes an effective move for you.
All right, you guys. So that's going to do it for us today. We have run out of time. So if we didn't get to your question, it's not because we don't like you. It's because we just didn't have time to get to everybody today. So what you can do if you still have a question is send it to us on Twitter during the week. You can send it to us on Facebook, Google Plus, or on or one of our videos on YouTube that actually kind of correlates with whatever your question is. We don't want to miss you guys. So if you have those questions, send them to us. Or you can come back next week and ask us. We'll be here again 1 p.m. Pacific time on Sunday, and we will try to get as many of those as we possibly can. So hopefully we help you guys today. If you didn't see the first part of the show, check it out. If you could, please send this video to your friends and family and make sure that they're there next week for our live shows, and follow us on Google Plus, on Facebook, on Twitter, and subscribe to us on YouTube because we have all of our videos there. Okay? So do you have anything?
Nope. Thanks for joining us today. It was fun.
Yeah. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks again.